Hello and welcome back to the Coder's Legacy channel. In this video, we'll deploy a React application to Amazon S3, also known as Simple Storage Service. It's a very simple way of storing files and sharing them across the internet. And it can also be used to deploy a website. So what we're going to do is, well, we have our AWS account here, but we'll just leave this for a bit and go over to our React application. Now, before I build this, you make a build, then you take that build, like the build folder, then upload it to S3. That's the gist of it. But before I do that, I'm gonna just run it once, just double check, because people make some last minute changes and things, and then it doesn't work because that last minute change broke their website. So always run your website once before running that command. Okay, and what you saw just there was a simple login page. Our website isn't anything fancy, it's just a simple login page. Okay, so now that we verified that, I'm just going to run this command, npm run build, and this is what is going to be the same thing for most of you. This command, npm run build, is the most common command for building, but depending on how you set up your application, it can be a bit different. For example, yarn is a popular alternative to npm. So for those of you who have set up your application using yarn, use yarn run build. Okay, now some of you may be using next.js, so you do next build. Okay, but for most of you this should be the case, npm run build. So just run this and it's going to generate a distribution folder, a build folder. I already have one from my previous runs, but it's just going to regenerate it. So it's just going to create those files, and it creates an index file, it creates a css file, and it creates a js file. Okay, so yeah, this folder is ready. Now we're going to upload this folder to Amazon S3. So come over to S3. You can either find it over here if you've recently visited it, or you can just search for it, S3. Now what we're going to do in S3 is create a bucket. Okay, a bucket is like a container, a storage container in which we're going to be uploading our files. You can have like think of it like a project. Okay, so we're going to do, if you want to pick a region, just change the region from here. For bucket type, go with general purpose, because this one is low latency. It's a fast one, but also more expensive. So yeah, don't do that unless you need it. So for bucket name, be careful, because it should be globally unique. Globally as in across the world. So be careful and try and pick something unique but meaningful. I'll just pick Coder's Legacy React tutorial. A bit lengthy, but okay. So copy settings from existing bucket. If you already have a bucket, then you can like choose bucket and pick one. I have a bucket over there, but I want to do everything from scratch. So I'm going to show you guys everything from scratch. So leave that at the disabled. Now here's the setting we are going to change, because by default the bucket is private access only, to prevent any random person from accessing it across the internet. But when you this is fine if you're like uploading files for an organization or for your own personal use. But if you want a website, then you want everyone to access it, at least 99% of the time. So you want to turn this off so that the public is allowed to access it. Okay, so bucket versioning. Bucket versioning is like if you delete a file, or you update a file, or modify a file, or upload a new file, then what happens is that with bucket versioning, if it's enabled, then it's going to like store copies. You update a file, so it will store the old copy and the new copy. That can be more resource intensive as well, because if you like upload a file, a 1 GB file, then you make a modification to that file, so then you'll end up with two 1 GB files. But the benefit is that you do get the version history and all that. But I'm going to leave this disabled, because unless you have a good reason, just leave it disabled. Okay, you can leave the rest of this at default settings, no need to mess around with that. Let's just go ahead and create the bucket now. And for those of you who maybe already have an existing bucket, I'll show you one or two changes, okay, that you can make to be on the same page as us. So don't worry. Now I'm just going to upload the files first. So just come over to where we stored our files, okay, our dist folder. Just go find the dist folder. It's right here, and then just drag these into that. Okay, and yeah. Alright, so just upload these. Okay, and depending on the size of your website, this might take some time if you have like fancy graphics and all. But for me, it's gonna be pretty quick. Done. Alright, so for those of you who already had an existing bucket and need to turn on that public access, come over to properties. Then see, you can change the bucket versioning here too, by the way. And just come down here, and sorry, wrong one. Come over to permissions. It should be in here, yeah, there. So just edit, and you can like change the setting at will. So those of you who already have existing buckets, just turn the setting off from here. Alright, now with that done, just come over to properties, come down here into static website hosting, click edit, click enable, host a static website, type index.html. Okay, and for convenience purposes, make sure that index.html is always in the root folder. Okay, don't upload the folder or something so that you have to do something like this. Always upload them in the root directory. Then index.html or an error.html file, if you have one, make sure they're always in the root directory. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Let me just run this. Let me do save changes, and this will give you a link, by the way. Let's just open that in a new tab. And I just want to show you what I mean by the root directory thing. So make sure that index.html is always right in front of you. Okay, like don't make it within a folder. So for your convenience, otherwise it's going to be a bit tricky. Okay, so I got a 403 error. Now this is what I expected. I expected to get a 403 error. So let me explain why. Well, the thing is that we still need to do one step before we're allowed to, or to be more specific, before others are allowed to view the objects in our bucket. What you need to do is come into permissions, bucket policies. Okay, edit. Now we're gonna define policies basically that provide access to this object stored in the bucket. So we need to kind of like define who is allowed to access these. So what we're gonna do is that's our bucket ARN. So we're gonna add a new statement. Then we'll do S3. This is basically like a policy builder, so it helps us, like through the GUI we can define our policies, which is defined in JSON. So what we want to do is get object. We want to allow the people across the internet to get the files in our website. Basically, it's like read. Okay, we want them to be able to access them, not write, not modify, anything like that. Just get. Okay, so we just selected that and this was constructed for us. So what we're gonna do now is focus on this and this. Okay, the principal basically defines who is allowed to access this bucket. This can get pretty complex because you can do a lot of things with this one. You can control who exactly is allowed to access it by like defining the IDs for different people. Like you can actually provide a list of users who are allowed to access it, and this would be something really useful in the case that you have a private organization or something and you only want a few people to access it. So you can actually provide a list over here like AWS, something like this, and then you provide a list of IDs. So and those IDs can be accessed from like the IAM. Okay, AWS IAM, so you can find it over there. But yeah, that's a bit off topic. So what we're really interested in is just doing this. Okay, so this basically means anyone's allowed to access it. And in the resource, what we're going to do is take the bucket identification number, just paste it over here, and then slash, then asterisk. So what this means, the slash and the asterisk basically means that we are allowed to access anything inside the bucket. Okay, any file, folder within the bucket. So that's pretty much all we had to do, and we just save changes, and I will refresh on this now, and there we go. So we can see it's loaded. Okay, pretty cool. Now anyone can access this right now, even you guys could, but I'm just gonna delete this right now because well, it doesn't charge you for being live, but it will charge you whenever someone accesses the website. It's like so you're not being charged for hosting, but you're being charged for when someone visits the website. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the video. Hope you guys found it interesting. If there's anything else you want to see, we will follow up on this concept of hosting your website, but like how to connect a CDN using AWS CloudFront and other similar things. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. All right.